How are you doing? Nice to be graceful, thank you.
Thank you.
Hey, we're unbelievably ready. That's what we said. You know. So, good evening. It's unusual that we don't have an executive session first, so we're actually starting at 7 o'clock this evening. So we will begin with the first. Okay, that was calling it to order. Okay, and we'll begin with the Pledge of Allegiance, like we always do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The emergency exits, in case anyone's forgotten, are the door you can use in the store over here. So if you're screaming, those are the doors you should head for. I think you're up, Dawn.
Okay, so roll call.
Yes.
Supervisor.
Here.
Oh, great. Council members, Regular.
Here.
Pam.
Here.
Hey, here. Everyone's here.
Very good. I'd like to make a motion to accept tonight's agenda.
I'll second.
Okay.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye. That was easy. Okay. So first up tonight is a presentation by our graphic designer about the town seal and all the associated parts. Georgia, just introduce yourself and you can take it away.
All right, I'm George Baralden. Do I need a microphone or you can?
Oh, you should use the microphone. You never know in this room. Is it on?
Hit the button.
There's a button.
For your
Dawn is coming.
no problems, no problems. It's just it's a cute little button, yes. But they want to hear you out. on
Yes, so
TV.
bring it close to you.
Yes, can you hear me? Yes. So George Baralden here to present the new design for the town seal. So I think I'm going to go through, there's some slides we're going to go through just to set the design and understand where the design comes from. So if you can go to the first slide. Today's goal is really to select a watermark, look at colors, see if you're in agreement with the town colors, because right now there's not a color palette yet, and then choose a theme for the seal. The seal is going to share today, they're not final designs, but there's some, we chose 3 directions for you to look at and choose which one you prefer. Then we can go in, refine it, and finalize the design. Just to look at, please go to the next slide. So there's some few words that describe Amenia. It's a ruler, it's a bit rural. Sorry, I have an accent, so that's my presentation. I'm gonna skip the harder words.
You can just use a few.
Yeah, exactly. No, I don't really know. You know, it's about beauty. We know where the name comes from. It's a beautiful landscape, the rolling hills. You know, there's an historical background that we need to consider, and you know, it's a multi-generational family place as well. Next one. The watermark is really a statement of the town, right? We try to capture what the character is, what the history is, and is used on all kinds of signage, brochures, and everything that is related to the town. It becomes a little bit the identity of the town. We already chose a font that is already being used in the street signs. So the font is nice because it has a hint of calligraphy, but it's also based on very historical typeface that was developed by Oscar Ogg. If you go to the next slide, you can see how it was, where it came from. So it's a very beautiful, traditional typeface that then was reinterpreted. Go to the next page, and it was in a more modern way, but it still captures this very historical character, but it's also infused with a very modern and unique design. So these are the 2 options we looked in for the watermark. Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
No, you guys got to turn yours off.
All of ours are on.
Okay, that should be good then.
So there's really two options, and the difference is the boldness of them, and also the fact that for the town of one option we use upper and lowercase, and the second option we use all caps. And of course, the established 1788 is so this is something if you can look at today, we can choose, this is if you like it, if you want any changes, but this is something we should look at and choose today. Color palette, there's not a current color palette for the town of Armenia, so what we did, we select a main color palette with pure accent color. The two, we go to the next slide, the two main colors are the greens that we also pick for the street sign, and then we build on it, so these are clearly inspired by nature, the color of nature, then there's a sunshine, there's water and sky for the blue and the oranges. And then the secondary colors are really more for more accent, like on the website, do highlights or things like that. It's just small little things. And then the background color is a little bit to step away from gray. That is usually the color go-to, but we wanted to just keep the color palette more warm, more nature inspired, so we picked more of a cream color. It's hard to see here, but it's a nice cream color, kind of a beige. So this is something that we would love to be able to talk about it as well. Then I will go through everything. So the town seal, we all know what it is. It just represents the town. If you look at the current, you can go to the next one. Yeah, we know the current town seal is a little bit of a assembly of different things. It's not really beautifully designed. It's hard to see. So we wanted to build on this and create a more distinct and unique. So right now even the font is very Times New Roman, so it's font you can find in the system, so there's nothing ownable and unique about what we have right now. So if you go to the next slide. So there were some residents who made ideas, and this helped us to identify what the themes were. We see the town hall there, we see the landscape, and we see the bank and the fountain. So these we kind of use to, again, help us find these themes. If you go to the next slide, and we saw, yes, we look at what the icons of Armenia are, and then again, if you go to the next slide, of course, we're talking about the rolling farmlands and hills, so there's a theme that specifically covers the landscape. Then we go to the next slide, we identified of all the different iconic structures, we identified the town hall and the bank in the center. So these are the three themes we used. So if you go to the next one, we can also look at different styles. So right now, the style of the design is not really developed because we didn't want to spend too much time going into too many details and doing too many little things. We wanted to again look at a composition and then go in and look at different styles. Right? We want to look at a pen style, more of a sketch style. We also want to look at woodcuts, but that again, that's going to be the next step. But we just want to show you a little bit where the direction we're thinking about going. So, town hall, Bank of Amenia, and landscape. Go to the next one, please. Okay, so we looked at different shapes, and we all know that the round shapes work. We're using it now, but we also wanted to explore different options because, again, the seal becomes a little seal of the town. Right? So it needs to be unique. It's nice to look into shape that are not so used so often by other towns, and they become more iconic, and you can remember them more because they become more unique. And so we looked into different oblong or oval shapes. The font is again built on what we did for the sign, and then we use uppercase and lowercase. Yeah.
It's the Bank of Millbrook.
Well, yes, used to be, yeah, Bank of Millbrook.
Oh, it is. Bank of Millbrook.
Right now?
Now,
Yes, it is. It is. But this is really wanted to kind of have the iconicity of the building come through, right? Of course, with the background of the rolling hills and the foreground the fountain. So this is one direction we looked at. Again, don't look at the style. It's really looking at what which theme you respond more to, right? So the next one we looked into town hall, and also what we did in one of them we introduced this banner that really makes the name kind of pop more. And we removed town. This is something that we look at. So it just says Amenia, and then it says Dutchess County, New York, of course, and the EOS attachment. And also we looked at a more organic, more oval shape. It's very unique. Actually, we like it a lot, and we think that you know, this 3D view of the tunnel really looks nice in this seal. It's really, it makes a very unique, it makes it a very unique seal, and, you know, of course, the darker colors, it really makes the tunnel medium name. Again, you know, everything is going to be more treated, so no details. Then we looked at one last theme, that is really the rolling hills. Here we look at, you know, making darker or lighter, but again, we went back to a more round, traditional shape, in which you really get enough space to see the landscape and you know, the illustrations, but again, use a banner with the town for the solution. So that's really all we have to share. The next page, you have all the, see it's in one page, so it's easy for you to refer to. But I don't know if you want to go back and maybe look at the word mark first, or start with the seal and then go backward and look at the colors as well.
Why don't we start with the watermark and see if the board is on it?
Yeah, so we'll go back, if you go back to the, I don't remember the number, no, the one with just, without the illustration, just the words, it was page, no, yeah, at the beginning, yeah. Back. Yep,
There it
that's
is.
it.
Any responses?
Yeah.
Okay, but we're gonna save that for public comment. I prefer the one on the right because it's sort of thicker and denser, which I think is kind of important. So it can actually be seen if it's on the side. But other than that, I don't have a lot to say about it.
I was thinking about scaling it, so when it's not on the side, so using a page, that would probably do it.
I think it would be visible that post on colors.
The one on the right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they should both work. The one on the right is bolder, it would probably cause you less problems than the one on the left, that is a little more delicate, but the pins are a bit bigger. So I have, you know, if I would recommend, I would say go to the one on the right as well, for that specific reason. If you like the lowercase, you can put it the one on the right. So nothing is set in stone either, right? So,
Right, no, we could be talking different fonts.
sorry?
We could be talking different fonts.
Well, I mean, this is the font you already use on
Do you
this
say
side,
it
right?
I know, I guess it's something I really am not that familiar with, I'd have to see it.
Is this
Well,
the-
we saw the signs, right? On the
I was gonna say,
side.
this is the same font that's.
Yeah, it's the same font that we already
This
used.
is the same one?
Yes, it's the same one. So everything is based on that design that was approved, so we're hoping that this should be okay, because it's already been approved and already being used. So.
I mean, it's such a minor difference, I do tend to hold it as, I like the left one, it's a little softer, but, at least, like I said, it's so minor, the difference, the bolder, the non-bolder.
The one on the left side, it really gives you, it's more beautiful, because
Yeah,
you see the
Is that
nuances
my
of the
feminine side?
typefaces, the other is bolder and it's a bit more aggressive, yes. That's
and I
why,
think, I feel like the signs that we have currently are the left,
yes, they
correct?
are.
Yeah.
The left one is very hard to read here in the color, actually.
Really?
I mean, except that I know we're in a medium. Anything else before we move on? All right, let's move on to the next slide, which gets to the
The
colors.
colors, yep. With a couple of pages after this. Yeah. So the two prints on the top are the one used on the sign as well, so just so you know, so we kind of build on that. And I think we just try to put a earthy, beautiful, you know, flexible, really nice color palette. I think it looks good.
I would just have to see the placement of them, I'm just worried about that blue. I feel like you might want it lighter, it looks a little bit, animated to me, that blue.
It could also probably be gray.
I don't know, it just screams like cartoon blue to me.
I think it's hard, to visualize.
Without seeing it in place, yeah, yeah.
Well, we could begin, we didn't purposely applied the seal because the seal is mostly gonna be one color, predominantly black. So, but we can maybe for next time, I can meet Charlie, or just put together maybe a web page, landing page or something, so we can see if we can use it and working.
Great. And
I think
then,
about embroidery, the shirt, how you're going, embroidered shirts.
Right.
So what colors are we gonna wanna see on the shirt when we're out representing
Yeah.
in conferences? How's it gonna
I'm
stand out?
thinking black, actually.
No, that top right green on gray feathered. Yeah.
I'm a blue person.
Okay, well, we won't roll that out yet. All right, let's look at the seals then.
Yes.
There are a few different things with the seals. I mean, I think the first and maybe most important is choosing which image, because these are all images that came from what we got in the competition.
Yeah.
So I guess the first thing is,
You can go to the last page with all the,
oh yeah, they're all.
yeah, this is great. Thanks.
Okay, so the ones to the right use town hall, the ones at the top use the bank building, and the ones below are rolling hills kind of vista, and could probably be specific to a medium. I mean, I think that's the intent, but it may be hard for people to see that that's the view from Delaware. But I wondered if people have thoughts in terms of preference in terms of the image.
Um,
I like the town hall myself, because to me it represents the center of the town. It's probably the most iconic building in town. You know, oh, we live in the back of nowhere. If you live with a bank of Amenia,
It
it's
was
a
a bank, it was built,
long time ago. You know?
when all these mergers.
Talking about the future, but this is our town hall, this is our blue map, along with the fountain, and along with the sunrise. So it's kind of like taking a combination of them, but going with the old shape, being different than the typical. So
I'm sorry to say that again, no, that was too much for me.
using the town hall building instead of clouds, why can't we have our Delaware?
Right, I agree, like, I think two of
Instead
these
of-
need to be combined.
It's like the first one in top row, on
Yeah.
the left, whatever, I'm taking off the banner, but using that type of a shape, using our town hall.
Oh, you like
Because the
whole-
clouds are nice, but again,
But I think I
using
would
the
like the
sun,
mountains in there too.
yeah,
Yeah.
showing the mountains and the sun on the side of it with our fountain in the corner. Just almost like switching the structure.
The background, yeah. You like the old one?
Something different, and I like what he said, how it would stand out. That's something we're looking to do, right? I hear branding, I hear what's a meaning, what we represent. Well, we're here and we've been in the building for 13 years. Why not focus on the town hall as being our home and really making that the new focus for the future? Banks come and go, I mean, hopefully they don't, I love the Bank of Millbrook, but we've watched it in our time change a couple times and locations of the Bank of Millbrook.
That's why I like the rolling hills one.
Yeah.
because It's, I like the one without the building. because it's- Yes.
Yeah, me too.
I think Don said the magic word branding, and I would love to hear from the economic development community now.
And comprehensive.
Yeah, exactly.
Plan with you today.
So can we agree that we want to stick with either the Rolling Hill and or the town hall ones?
It would be better to like be more specific.
Let's try to narrow this down.
If we
Yes,
can.
possible
ones, these are kind of add.
So I think it's down Rolling Hills and the town hall. I really like the look of the banner, but it does take away from what you're trying to show in the back. I like that.
I do too.
One of the.
You do too?
Well, because it makes the word immediate.
Yeah, stand out, yeah.
It's a little less visible.
The reason I like the Rolling Hills one is because immediately it's what pleases the eye, and that's what, impresses people, basically, is our scenery, and, I guess that's.
But I like the banner on the top right one. I wish we could put that one on the bottom left.
You mean that it just says immediate?
Yeah, and I like that,
I
yeah.
don't, I think that's totally fine.
And I like the left, the Rolling Hills are bigger than the middle one. It stands out more. I think we can get rid of town of medium, put a medium.
Well, mean, yeah, you have to be careful because it's a shorter wall, right? So the band is gonna grow, so it's gonna go more. Because it's gonna float in the middle of the lake. There's a reason why Amenia is using the oval and not the circle, and why Amenia is using the circle. You know what I'm trying to say?
I know what you're
Yeah.
saying.
So, just want to put it out there.
Okay.
We can definitely try it, I don't say we won't, but there's gonna be some adjustment in the proportions.
Well, could you put the rolling hills in the oval?
Absolutely.
I'd like to see that.
We had it, actually, we had some options, we selected some, not to give too many options,
Yeah,
but one of the options, of course, we had the rolling hills.
yeah, lovely.
If you had the oval on a horizontal plane with the town hall, that would give you a little bit better, for the town hall, you know, as well.
Yes, we can, but usually, I mean, it would just, I would just feel awkward to have a horizontal oval shape.
Yeah.
It would be a little bit, I don't know, we can try. To me, it's like, you know, going back to branding, right? Strong brands have one simple statement, one simple thing that happens in, you know, space. So the way I should look at it is, I think, keep it simple and keep it strong, because at the end of the game, I think that's what's really gonna make us stick.
You got that right.
So I think that's, and I do think that the town hall is the most iconic building. I mean, when I drive here, even before doing anything, it's like, this is the building I remember. And of course, the beauty of the hill. So, I mean, maybe we can try to put some of that in the town or in the back, some of the landscape.
Right.
So that's something we can definitely try.
Yeah, I mean, my concern is just that it be comprehensible, because I think the problem with the last scene is trying to
Too many.
fit in too many things and so you're not really reading.
Well, that's what I look at when I see the rolling hills and just the rolling hills, because I'm thinking about our uses. When it gets, you know, compressed onto a piece of paper, when it goes on a letterhead, and then you send it to somebody, and they have to make it bigger, they have to make it smaller. And you're just looking at it from this distance, some of it looks darker or not darker, but then how are you going to see those etched lines? Because that's what everybody's complaining about now with our current seal, because they can't make out the etched lines. So,
Yeah, there's also a lot of stuff in your current. I think the reason why nobody is responding to the bank is because there's a lot of
so
stuff.
much.
Yes, exactly. So when you can really see what's going on, while the other ones, it kind of like, you have more of a defined impression of what's happening. And I think that's one of the reasons why you respond to the other ones. I'm just putting my opinion, my thoughts out.
They're all one color.
Hmm?
They're all one color as well.
Yes, they
So
are.
they're blended,
Purposely so.
so
Because
that
if,
you can't make them out.
but the idea of one reason why I presented more color is so you respond to the design and not to a color. Because if you like green more than red, you're gonna respond to the green look, to the green scenes that are red. So this is all, at least with a plain field, and then we can go in again and work on all those details, because I don't think we solved the landscape either yet. So as I said, we need to go in and make sure that it works, all sizes, and everywhere in broader and broader. So we're gonna have to make sure that things, and, you know, again, need to refine. So that's why I say, don't get lost too much in the details, because we're gonna fix all of that. It's really more about the themes. That's what really important.
Is there anything else that you want from us in terms of direction?
Well, we still, so, to review, so are we doing two options, the landscape and the town hall, or is it the town hall, or?
I think we want to combine, right? We want to say combine.
Yeah, I mean, it makes me nervous just because we're putting a landscape on town hall, and there's no landscape on town hall. But it's not an actual view, but I can probably work through that. I prefer one or the other, but I can probably work through that.
Okay, we'll get pick one what would be.
I have the landscape, and then present as right, it's, you know.
I think I would pick landscape too, just because I don't want to define the town by a building.
No, I mean, I think that this is our town hall, and we're trying to get more
Right.
people to use this building, so I totally understand that too, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I do like the name, but I've given up on that, it's not a problem. Okay, I wanted to mention one other thing, which is that I had a long conversation with Betsy Strauss about the date, because 1788 is when the town of Amenia became a town, officially became a town. But when I moved up there was a 300th anniversary and all the banners said 1703. So I thought that was, it would be a little peculiar, we wouldn't know when to have the next, anniversary if we switched. But it did say 1788 on the ban, on the seal we have now. So, unless anyone has strong objections, I assume that's what we should use. I mean, that's what most towns have, the date they were incorporated. And the other thing is that we didn't put pleasing to the eye in any of these, and I didn't know if anyone thought that was important, or more important than Dutchess County, or more important than something else. Thoughts?
Well, I believe that the landscape kind of fits that.
I'm sorry, the landscape?
Kind of fits that. I mean, I think, I think.
Yeah.
So you're saying if
We don't
we
need
use
it.
the landscape, we don't need it?
Right.
All right, those are the questions.
Did
Do you have
we-
enough to move forward, or is there anything else you want to ask?
No, I think I'm
Okay. That's great. Thank you, George. I appreciate your
Thank
work.
you.
Thanks.
All right, excellent. The second presentation we're tabling because Charlie was supposed to give the presentation when he got up here in time. So we'll do that next time, and it gives us more time to discuss with the assessor. I did actually have a little back and forth with her, I had some questions too. So I don't know if there was something specific you wanted to ask her?
Well, truthfully, after talking to her and doing a little research, it's nice to have a presentation. I could ask a lot of questions, but it wouldn't really solve everything. What would solve everything and all the questions were having everybody at the same table. We don't know how many firemen would be qualified. We don't know what the criteria would be for them to qualify. The assessor had a myriad of questions. And some of them related to building and zoning codes for affordable housing. So we could have a presentation, it would be nice, but it really wouldn't, it would just lead to another meeting where we would all really have to sit down, have a table, ask the questions, and be effective. That's my opinion.
Interesting. Okay.
So-
Anyone else have any thoughts?
The information that we got, though, was pretty self-explanatory as far as, what's covered, and as far as the affordable housing, is basically the ADUs. And, it spells out exactly, what it would be, that it would be for 8 years. It would be 100% of the increase in assessed value the first year, and subsequently, it would go down 12% each year. I mean, it's pretty well spelled out. I'm not sure why it would be a concern to the zoning board, because anybody who gets one of these has to have a building permit. So all of that, all of that site plan, if it had to be done, or any of that zoning variances would have to be done prior to any of this,
Yeah.
right? So,
Yeah, it has to have
ADU?
yes, ADU before they could go for this exemption.
right, but they would have, yes, so it would already have gone through
Through
the zoning
zoning,
board,
through
and
building,
planning board,
And the building
and
inspector.
whoever else, any other, alphabet soup.
This is basically us just passing a tax exemption so that it's an incentive for people to put housing
I mean, that's the idea,
on
because
property.
there's, other sorts of housing get built by other people, but this allows individuals to build what they want, or what's
And
appropriate
I
for
believe
them
it
and
was
by
different
themselves.
if it was someone you were renting it to someone you didn't know, as opposed to making like an in-law suite. The break was different.
I think it is, because I
Yeah.
think that's the second one. as
So
opposed to
the
the
whole
first.
idea of these ADU things was that, people would take care of their parents, and their parents, grandparents, or whoever, but it wasn't something that would be, you couldn't use it as an Airbnb or any of those, and that's pretty well spelled out in this,
Yeah.
thing. And I think if it needed to be refined, it would be refined even more. I've got it. You read it? The other, as far as the, this I got from the internet on the environment.
Look at that. Thank you.
So, basically, there are a lot of parameters in that, and we would get a list from the fire company on who would be would qualify. And again, there's a lot of, in these rules here, there are a lot of things that you have to do. You know, for example, again, you know, the residence has to be primary residence. It can't be one of your many properties that you own that, you know, when you have an Airbnb. So it's pretty well spelled out. And I think the first thing to do would be, I mean, it wouldn't hurt to get a list from people, fire company and the EMS people, and see who would actually qualify. You know, I don't think it would add up to a lot of money. And again, there are different plans that you can use.
I think also on the flip side of this is that it's an incentive for more volunteers, for our fire.
Well, that's the other point, is that, you know, we obviously have trouble getting volunteers.
Yeah.
And if there's, I mean, it's not the biggest discount in the world, but at least it's some incentive,
Right,
which
it's
there
not
isn't.
really big, it's
What?
like 10%, it's like 10% of your assessed value.
Yeah, that's true.
And,
Actually,
you
it's up to 10%, and you have to determine, well, actually, the town board will determine, what the percentage would be, but it is actually up to 10%.
But I also think it's, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, and, yeah, that's not even for the determine, but I think ultimately the town board would be the ones to determine the.
I mean, obviously, we have to talk to the fire department about, you know, what qualifies someone for this. Is it, you know, being part of that for 2 years, continuing on, there's a whole
And
bunch
we
of
can
questions.
decide that. So
Yeah.
there are options, 2 years, you know, if it's 2 years, that's fine. Is it going to be, you know, if the fire person has to retire, you know, they get old and they can't do it anymore, I mean, do they still get it? If they pass away and their spouse remains unmarried, you know, that's another option. Can they, you know, can they continue on with that exemption? Again, it's not a huge amount of money. And the other, you know, thing that we, having a volunteer fire company, you know, I think we really kind of owe it to them, because they do so much.
We have to look at the law again too, because what we received is old, it's dated, it's not a 2025 law. And there are things in it like, whether or not there's prior exemptions, which there are none. We never.
I'm sorry, whether prior
Whether there
exemptions.
was a prior program for exemptions in the fire company. I know that, I said the elevator, so I'm sure Ian has some comment on that, but, so, you know, the taxable date, if we do this, it begins in March 1st is when it will be given in any particular year. So it's not like it's a rush to do it, but.
No, that's the thing,
Yeah,
and that's why I realized we don't have, you
Yeah.
know, it's not something we need to
And
decide
there was
now.
something called the sunset period, which goes back to what I was saying, which doesn't apply here, so, because we didn't have a pre-existing program. So there's a lot of, as I said earlier, there's a lot of pieces to this, and I know we're all sort of spitballing right now, but.
Well, I mean, why don't we just invite the assessor and maybe the, you know, head of the fire company or companies.
And the building and zoning department too, because there's a little bit element of, if you put forward ADUs, you're not gonna put an ADU on a half-acre lot, I know I'm exaggerating, but we have to look at where these would actually fit in the zoning, and I think Michael's really important in that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that the biggest issue is septic, actually, more than lot size. I mean, these are allowed on any lot in the except in any zone except for suburban residential, which I don't really understand. But I mean, ADUs are called the gentlest kind of housing because it doesn't really change the look of anything. Especially if you put something in your own house or renovate a garage or a barn or something. But there's very little incentive now for people to do that because there's not, at this point, I mean, New York State is talking about a program for accessory dwelling units where the state would kick in some money, but they're not even sure how this is supposed to operate. But I thought it was a good idea for us to incentivize this too, because we still need a lot of housing and we have not created much, if any. So should we then at our next, see whether we can get Donna and some of these other people at our next meeting, and then we can go through all this stuff in executive session and then report back.
I'm not sure, I think we should be in public session, I'm sorry. I think that any of those presentations, the public needs to know what we are discussing. So I don't think it should be done in executive
Okay,
session.
I just thought it would be
I think
kind
that
of
they-
boring, but that's fine.
Well, it may be, but I mean, that's why, I think Donna should come and just give her opinion on these things, or her thoughts on these, items, and, and then we can kind of go from there. Again, I'm still not really clear on what the zoning board has to do with it, but I mean, we certainly could invite Terry to come, as the chair of the ZBA.
It seems to me that the ZBA isn't really relevant, I mean, the planning board might be, but the ZBA is only if there's a challenge
I would say the same
to
thing.
zoning challenge.
It's very, I'm not even sure, well, again, planning board would make more sense to me, but, so I think it should be discussed in open session. And we should figure out, in the meantime, we should also talk to the fire company involved. And if it makes people feel better, I think you can figure out how much it would actually cost. I know I was told that the school board was able to figure out how much the senior exemption costs the taxpayers, so, I think we should be able to figure that out. And kind of go from there.
That exemption only applies to school tax.
No, I understand that. But my point is that you can figure it out. If you can figure it out for school tax, you can also, at least with that exemption, you can also figure out, if you know how many firemen there are, how many EMS people there are, you can figure it out.
Well, I'm going to suggest we move on to public comment, and we'll try to arrange with
As far as the executive session matters, there really wouldn't be a basis to go to executive session, so I would say it is definitely a public meeting item of people.
So you're saying boredom isn't an excuse for?
No.
Good to know, good to know.
So we have the agenda, so there's no comment out.
Public comment, Deidre, I think you should go first since you're not even a media resident. Sure you want to get out. Let's start with this thing.
Thank you all. Deirdre House, Dutchess County Legislator. I know earlier in the year, we talked about transportation in Dutchess County and the lack of transportation here in Amenia specifically. So we had talked about Go-Go Veteran and Go-Go Grandparent, and it seems that there's some confusion on what the program is. So I just wanted to come out and highlight it for you this evening. Go-Go Grandparent is offered through the Office for the Aging in Dutchess County, and Go-Go Veteran is available through Dutchess County Veterans Affairs Office. They are not part of Dutchess Transportation. They're separate from Dutchess Transportation. So it seems that people don't even know that the service is available. Go-Go Grandparent is available to any Dutchess County resident 60 or older. It serves all of Dutchess County, regardless of Medicaid status. It's for visits to loved ones in the hospital, hospice, nursing home within Dutchess County. It is free. There is a limited number of trips per month, and I'll give this to the town clerk to have for a reference. It is simple to use, but you must register for the first time. So you go on Office for the Aging website. It's right through the county website. I try to register. I'm not able to register because of my age. I'm getting there, but not yet. But I try to register. It does not seem onerous. It's basically questions about your address, just so they know that, where to pick you up, kind of what places you often go to or will need to go to. But it's for non-emergency. If you need a haircut, you can take the Go-Go Grandparent Program. If you need to get groceries. And then the same for the Go-Go Veteran. It's obviously for Dutchess County veterans. Any veteran, regardless of age, can use it. And it's the same system. You go through the county website, you register, and it's for non-emergency transport to visit people, to get errands done, whatever, and it's available here in Amenia. So I just wanted to make sure everyone's aware of it, utilizes it, gives us feedback on how it works out here. We had a budget amendment that added $50,000 more to this program this year in 2025. So there's dollars available for people to use it, and it's free. The Go-Go Grandparent started in 2024, and the Go-Go Veteran is brand new this year. So I think it's fairly new to the county, so residents aren't aware of it. So I just wanted to come out tonight and highlight it and let anyone know if they have any questions. Feel free to reach out, and we can get you set up and registered and ready to ride the county roads.
So it's, Peter, we do have on our website a link to the dial ride.
This is different.
Yeah,
The dial ride is through Dutchess Transit.
right.
And there's a small fee, I think it's like $1.50, and that has to be scheduled 30 days in advance, and those
Right.
rides do book up.
Thank you for clarifying that for the public. And, yeah, it wouldn't be too difficult to put this on a link on our website.
Well, that's why I brought it up, I thought John would do something with it.
Yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
thanks.
Okay, anyone else? Oh my God, all sorts of people. I'll let you go first, Judy.
Okay, I have three things to talk about, I'll try to be quick. The first one is the sign. I did not realize it was going to cost that much. I realized we put one up at the school, but we, first of all, had a frame to install it in, and it was quite a while ago, so to me, $40,000 is a little steep for an electric sign. But that's just my opinion. Well, the accessory dwelling units, I'm not sure whether you're addressing the planning board as being part of perhaps setting up a local law or zoning or something. Once the accessory dwelling unit is there, that's when they can apply for an exemption. The process of getting the accessory dwelling unit is a separate thing. That would involve the planning board, but, so I'm not sure whether it would need to be involved if all you're looking at is the exemption. Let's see, the last thing is the EV stations. I tried to find as much information as I could about that. I realized that the grant was awarded 2 years ago, perhaps a little bit more. I'd like to know, while you're looking at perhaps going ahead with this, what the costs and what the continuing maintenance and unexpected costs are. It says that the town has to maintain it for 10 years, they have to keep it in good shape, it has to be available 80% of the time. It also says things like all successful grantees will be required to track greenhouse gas emission reductions for each piece of infrastructure installed. Do we know how we're going to do that? Do we know whether we need to hire somebody? It just, and we got $82,000, but do we know what the total cost is going to be? Before we keep just marching ahead, and we may very well be reaching a time when we can't keep marching ahead because you can't get it done. I'd just like to know whether everybody has looked into what the total costs are going to be.
Vicky's probably been involved with this the longest, so maybe she can answer that question, but I'm pretty sure that the costs of the station are actually part of the grant, are actually paid as part of the grant, but again, it's been going on for a long time, and I wasn't involved with the hearing, so.
Well, the cost of the station are paid up to $82,000, that's what you got, but what's the station's going to cost?
Again, I have not been involved in this, but
Yeah.
we'll find out.
And a lot of paperwork to administer the grant.
I'm sorry, was that a lot of people?
A lot of paperwork.
Paperwork. And Paulski?
Thank you, Leo. Good evening. Two things. One is your presentation on the seal and the branding, and I would ask you to delay it at least 3 or 4 months. Any comments? And here's why. At the comprehensive plan review, we spent the whole evening trying to decide what questions and what presentations were going to be made to the residents of Amenia, the stakeholders of the town, on June 9th, when we have our first public session for comments. When you did this in 2007, you had close to 300 people show up and give their comments on what they thought the town was, what they hoped it is, and what they hoped it would be. That's 300 people using a word cloud, which the gentleman made the presentation. What do you think of when you think of Amenia? And people do a word cloud, they put up a word here, there, it's what they feel. You're making a decision without knowing what the residents want. We talked about colors. What is the branding? And you're making a decision off of a 980 lumen projection. None of those colors at 980 lumens will look even close to what they look like in real life. You look at that on paper, printed. You'll get the right density, the right hue, the right saturation. Trying to do it now, you're only going to be disappointed. Nicole said, I like the font because it was pretty. That's the right criteria. As far as readability, that's opacity. Now, I could throw out words like that, opacity. How thick is the color versus one level versus another? We use that all the time in film. So trust me, when you said it's pretty, that's a decision that's made with something that you want. I want to evoke beauty. When you were talking about what the seal should be, trying to again judge on that is fine. Get it printed. And there are a whole lot of other reasons you shouldn't make a decision tonight based on that, or make any recommendations. I thank Brad for pointing out Economic Development Committee, and I'll get to that in a minute. But right now, why can't you wait a couple of months to hear what the residents of Amenia say about the town?
Didn't Economic Development Committee that just go through a process with their designer to choose fonts
I'm talking
and
about the
colors?
comprehensive plan review and the community meetings set up to decide what needs to go in the next comprehensive plan. And that's going to determine your brand, and your brand's going to be voiced and represented by that. And you're trying to put the cart before the horse. What if it says something completely different? There are ways to incorporate rolling hills in the foreground and on the side, with town hall growing out of them. That's powerful. Your eye goes to what's on top, but it's rooted in what's, that's simple composition. That's easy to do. But you don't do that before you know. Have you looked at other town logos and branding?
Many.
Okay. Armenia, Minnesota is great. I always get
I'm
directed. Armenia, Minnesota is great. Anytime I'm typing in the car, I always get directed there instead of here. Okay. So I suggest that you delay this until after the summer, when we will have the data in from PACE and the consultants that the town board graciously agreed to give us the money. As far as economic development comes, and this is a problem I've found in general, is communication. And it's something, again, thank you, Brad, you commented on it a couple of weeks back when we had that meeting on this Saturday. Looking at your discussion items this evening, the graphic design, well, we were discussing that in comprehensive plan review, and we're discussing branding and economic development. So two committees are working without knowing what you're planning to do here. And if you move ahead, we're going to have two committees. I'm on both of them, wasting I can't say that word, blank load of time, because no one's talking to one another. Thank you for wasting my time. Let's see, is there any other place? Affordable housing exemptions, no rail trail. Yes, we've been talking about that in economic development, because it turns out that this and I went to the Dutchess County Tourism presentation a couple months ago. It's fascinating how many people come up here for recreation. Fascinating. How much money. I'm talking about hundreds of millions of dollars is spent in this county on recreation. The rail trail, and we're looking at that for economic development, that's the perfect recreation to attract people. And one of the things we talk about is the traffic, but again, you're having those discussions, we don't know they're going on in committee, so we're having the same conversations, and ours might be thrown out the window because you're having a conversation about it. We don't have
the rail trail in this?
I'm talking about the development here of the charging station on Mechanic Street and where else? Parking. I know you've had some discussions with parking, Rosanna has. That's something we're talking about as well. But also, in terms of the basketball court, pardon me, we're talking about that, and I know that rec is passionate about that as well. So now they're talking about it a little bit, we're talking about it a little bit, you're talking about it a little bit, and I have no idea where the consensus lies or if even anyone cares about consensus. Because if we did, we'd all get together and talk about it. We can't, and I mean, our point of view is you can't take something without giving something. We take the basketball court, what do we give, so that no one is left out. And that just in general is, you know, I mean, the seal was one, I'm sorry, the logo branding, the seal was one conversation. But somehow, someone has to figure out a procedure, just of how do we avoid having all these duplicate conversations and no one knowing they're going on?
Wasn't there a meeting 2 weeks ago of all the committee chairs to address that? You were at it.
No, that was one meeting, and it wasn't about that. That turned out to be the outgrowth of that. One meeting. In how long? Has that ever happened before?
There's a lot of stuff that's never happened before in a meeting.
Okay, so why not use that, use what I'm saying, my observation is, and come up with a formula where, when the town board, for instance, if you decide, well, we need to pursue this, assign it to a committee and let them report back to you. And then using their hard work, you save your time, and they report back to you, give you what they found out, and then you can make a decision. But now, it doesn't feel like that's how it operates. And it just feels like, well, we've always done it this way. I'm suggesting we never do it that way, we only do it this way, but we don't do that. That's what you hear in business that says this business is going to kill itself. When you go, well, just because we haven't done something in the past, which was what I gather you were saying, we do a lot of things, we don't do a lot of things. I suggest the town board, when they have an issue they want to discuss, assign it to committee, let committee report back to the town board, and let the town board use the hard work of the committees and the expertise the committees have put in to then make a decision, and not duplicate the work of the committees. Simple. That's it. Thank you.
Except that we need to make sure that the committees actually do some outreach so that they don't just hear their own voices in the room and make decisions on that basis, which has been a problem with committees in this town before too. So
Let's
I
fix
don't want
it.
to do things the same, I just want to avoid those
I mean,
things.
let's fix it, because I don't believe, or is it working? Maybe not as good as it could be.
And I'd like to say, thank you for one. But you're right, we need to establish some common ground here. And that hasn't happened in that one meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago. I think everybody at the table was agreed what a productive meeting it was. That was inspirational to me to go forward. It really was. Thank you.
And isn't that, I'm sorry, but that was a change. I mean, that hasn't happened before in a meeting. So if you experience this 2 weeks again and think that the whole town should have like changed all their behaviors over 2 weeks without there being a follow-up, I think that's a little.
Did I say that? Has there been any announcement that, you know what, we should do this, this was productive, let's do it again? I haven't heard that. Now, maybe someone has said that, but they haven't communicated it. And if you said it and you don't communicate it, there's an intention and perception. It doesn't matter what you intend, it's my perception that matters. And I haven't perceived that that is ongoing, particularly because that meeting is about affordable housing and all of that. It had nothing to do with communication. It was the water district, I'm sorry. And there was nothing in that about communication.
I'm sorry, wasn't that the meeting about the streetscape?
The what?
The
Oh, the
streetscape.
treescape, I'm sorry.
I didn't make it out.
Yeah, sorry, that.
Okay. But
So,
anyway,
is
thank
that,
you.
okay, let me ask you, are you planning, and have you discussed doing that regularly?
I'd like to do that right
No, I
now.
didn't say like, I said, have you?
I'm sorry?
Yeah, can we get, any more public comment? Sorry, we need to move on. Go ahead.
Good evening. Vicki Doyle, 320 South Amenia Road, Wausau, New York. I wanted to say thank you to all the people who showed up to do our cleanup day in the rain on Saturday in celebration of Earth Day. My paperwork is very wet, and it's a little hard to read, but I'm gonna read out the names of the people who actually came to show up in the rain. I didn't know if anybody would or not, but they did, and we gathered 350 pounds of garbage that we took to the transfer station, but that's just a small amount because mini bags were left alongside of the road for the state to pick up. So we just picked up the large, weird, historic lawnmower that Leo found, I guess, in Wasaic Park. I'm not sure where, but that got the prize for the weirdest.
That was actually Michael Pete, I can't.
Oh, I'm sorry, Michael Pete. But anyway, they all came out and did a great job. It was actually fun, weirdly fun. Michael Pete, Becky King, Tom King, new neighbors on Bog Hollow Road. We're happy to meet them and have them jump right in as to meet their neighbors and to pick up trash. Leo, of course, and Daniel Donnelly. And that was in Wasaic. We had 2 places where you could start and sign in. So the one in Amenia was Maureen Rule, who did a fantastic job south of Freshtown, south of Maplebrook. She has adjoining property on Route 22, and she did 3 or 4 bags of trash on her own. So hats off to Maureen in the rain. Polly Fitzgarvin, Tom Buslowitz, myself and my husband, Cindy O'Brien, Walter Diedrich, thank you, Walter, Wendy Goydell, and George Mastranson did it on his own earlier. So we work with anybody. If you can do it the day before, no problem, I'll give you free bags. So hats off to all of those people. I also wanted to say thank you to those who showed up for our tree planting. The Arbor Day ceremonial planting took place at the rail trailhead in Wasaic, kind of between Maxon Mills and the railroad. So it's a beautiful fir oak, B-U-R-O-A-K, just a regular oak that is going to be host to a lot of caterpillars and insects that will feed the birds and the butterflies, the pollinators. It's a native species that is one of those keystone species, trees, native plants that really boost the ecosystem. So we appreciate Mary Ann Pitts, who took the lead on that, and the garden club actually purchased the tree, so it cost nothing, and it replaced a dead tree. So all good on Friday, April 25th, and the cleanup day was April 26th. Sorry for the slow rollout of the thank you, we were exhausted. EV charging budget, I'm just looking at my notes. Yes, you're right. It took a lot of time and effort to apply for that grant. We were spurred on by Millerton, who put an EV charging station on Century Boulevard, and they just swam fast right through their process. It was a huge success. They're looking at putting more in, same with Rhinebeck. They're all screaming streets ahead of us. I think the complicated part for us, and a lot of volunteers, we spent weeks here in Town Hall trying to figure out the grant portal, trying to figure out how to upload, how to fill out all these reports and these climate mitigation reports. We enlisted the help of all kinds of different people to put together what we thought was a winning grant, and it did actually finally, we did secure it. But I think the problem that we have here in Amenia, which we think was a great idea, is that there's several ownerships involved in our project versus at Millerton and maybe other places where there's the municipality owns the parking lot, and it's right there at their town hall or it's within viewing distance. But we thought the rail trail parking lot is one of those convenient places where maybe you're going to go out for a mile or an hour-long walk, and you might visit the town and go to the new restaurant and leave your car charging there for free for 2 years. The reason why it's $82,000 is that it allowed us miraculously to put in 2 years worth of free charging to encourage people that might be on the fence about purchasing an EV vehicle, an electric vehicle or a hybrid, to have free access to charging. And it's also in the dense part of the area, Hamlet-wise. So if you live right there, somewhere in that little dense area of Amenia, this might be convenient. So we thought this was the best place, although if I'm saying too much, tell me. But Jeff Barnett-Winsby was always enthusiastic, probably still is enthusiastic about putting it on Wasaic across from Maxon Mills, making a dedicated space there for them. But they at the time didn't have the kind of electrical pole that would support the new EV charging station. If we had the EV lily pad come out and look at that spot, and yes, it would have worked, but the problem that we had is that they hadn't yet created a pole that was really appropriate for that kind of service. So the one here on Mechanic Street is 90% owned by the town. We had a lot of enthusiastic support from Robert Balkine, the head of the Public Works for the county. He was very supportive. He said, I'll do the signs, I'll do the striping, you can come in, we do it for the rail trail, the walkway over the Hudson, we're very successful, these are great things to have, don't worry, we'll work together. But the state of New York owns a portion of the rail trail, 66 feet in total. So there's that complication, but the main complication, I guess, is that the survey had been done, and the lawyer will have to speak to that. At this point, I don't know enough about that portion to understand why they have moved the EV charger kind of away from Mechanic Street, which I thought one of the
It was
problems.
requested to come back. Ian spoke to them.
Yeah, actually circulated that too, they drew it to bring it closer.
Yeah, I didn't understand why it was moved from where we had the lily pad and the electrical people say, this is a perfect location close to the road, which I said, gosh,
Government,
anybody
they got
driving
changed
past
back.
would see that there's somebody
It
not
was
charging.
obviously wrong. It did get changed
Oh, it
back.
will get changed, okay, so that's fine.
It's already changed, so Bob,
Okay,
Bob kind of drew that out for us.
I'm so
according to the
great.
specs. Yeah, he's been great.
So
Kind of
supportive.
fantastic for, they drew it out, and it just happened to be where they had placed it, and then what they asked was to bring it a little closer to Mechanic Street, as close as we could bring it. The way the survey works, it's kind of angular, you have to see it on the map to see it. They are just supposed to take it to Mechanic Street.
so
And
he
that's the
knows
specs.
more about ingress, egress, and how to manage, and he said he would sign it appropriately, and I had some ideas, and Megan was willing to, when she plows it, make sure that the EV charging stations are reasonably cleared and accessible, they're not snowed in or iced over. Those people all seemed receptive at the time when we applied for this grant. But I understand that sealing the deal, who's gonna get the phone call? I thought the town clerk's office, here's the phone call, oh, it's a software issue, no, it's a mechanical issue, no, it's somebody's parked illegally there. That you then send it out to the appropriate person. The grant is, from my notes, I'm not sure if this was the exact budget that we submitted, but we were basing it on what Millerton had done within a short amount of time, using LilyPad EV, which is already a state approved. We didn't have to bid it out. It was working in Millerton, same people getting much the same price. EV charging station turnkey by LilyPad was $28,890. We got a quote for prep and striping of the rail trail head parking lot in case the county wouldn't do it. Robert couldn't guarantee me that they would do it. I put in $5,000 for that. Legal services, $1,500. You probably have used that up already. Meats and Browns, $500, but we already realized we'd already done a survey, so that is still needing to be described, right? For the meets and bounds would need to be described, or would not need to do that because you moved it completely onto our,
Yeah, we were able to circumvent that, the whole
because
easement.
we
issue.
now know we
Yeah.
own the whole part of where that station is gonna go.
Correct.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Because the state sort of claimed it without making it a mention of the town.
Yeah, so the state owns the land, county leases it, and there's been an encroachment onto our property.
They encroach on our
Yeah.
property.
That's what it is, yeah. And
So
then,
that's
and then they wanted to
fantastic.
add doing an easement to this. So I was able to circumvent the easement requirement, which was a huge plus for us, because it would, I can't imagine trying to negotiate.
No, it was
these
hard.
with
It was hard.
these
I tried to start it, but I realized I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a surveyor, so
And
I
Vicki, we need to move on.
volunteers did what they could. So the total, and grant administration was 1,500, and the rest is free charging for 2 years for the residents. Thank you.
All righty, let's move on unless anyone else had a comment that they're bringing to discuss. Huh? Committees are at the end, yeah, well, further along anyway. Okay, so reports next. Hmm?
There are no committee reports this time.
Oh, you're right, we don't do committee reports on alternate, I'm sorry. We only do committee reports the second meeting of the month. Sorry. You can make public comment then.
Perfect.
I'm Bill Floyd, I'm chairman of the comp plan review, and I just want to make an announcement to the public that we are meeting our first public meeting on June 9th here in the auditorium, and we'll have a session in the auditorium as well. We'll have tables and chairs set up for or at the gym, I should say, so the people can work on vignettes and so on and so forth with the people from the people who Pace University. So June 9th, we need to get as many public people here. Bring your ideas to us so we can make a plan for history for the town of Amenia for the future. Obviously, there's been a lot happening in the last 25 years, so hopefully we can get a lot more done.
And do you know the time for that meeting?
6:30 it starts. We'll be here for a couple hours.
It'll be filmed, live stream, right?
What?
Live stream.
Yeah. And Matt's going to stream it, so I told him thank him here. And I'll talk to you about this, the chairs tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, reports. Okay, supervisor's report. The highway garage, the architects are starting their construction documents this week. The water district, there was a meeting with Delaware engineers, and they are almost finished drawing up the Lavelle pump house and wells to replace them. The sidewalk to Beekman, New York State won't have New York State DOT won't have their kickoff meeting until we hire a supervising engineer, which we thought would be the engineer we already used for the sidewalk, but they haven't been responsive to 2 weeks of phone calls, so now we're going to probably use a different engineer, which is infuriating, but kind of the way everything works. So that sidewalk will start as soon as we solve that problem. Because it's gotten all the approvals and we have the money and all that. The interior painting is, I think, going to be finished up tomorrow, but it is looking infinitely better in the stairways and in the auditorium and some other places. The grant writer has already started researching funding sources and suggested some that we should apply for a variety of projects. The town web designers, I hope, will be presenting the new site on May 15th, because it's been a slog there. The LED sign, we're going to be voting on a resolution tonight to select a bidder. They've all been reviewed by John Anderson, who made a recommendation. I hate to be talking about the farmer's market again, but NECC has a new director of farmer's market who's determined that we will start Memorial Day, Friday night, and I'm not going to make any promises because of what happened last year, but we'll see. I'm hopeful. It's supposed to include food trucks and prepared foods and kids' activities. So hopefully that will all come together. I spoke to New York State DOT Wednesday about parking, specifically what's required to install 15-minute parking signs in front of the post office, and to reduce the speed on 2244, repave the intersection, curb and curb cuts if there's a parking lot at the basketball court. So at least we have basic information on what any of those things would require, and they seem fairly receptive. Rosanna arranged for both a prescription drug return box in front of the building, which is a great thing, and also for 4 Narcan dispensers to be mounted inside and outside town hall. That was from the Dutchess County Department of Mental Health. And Narcan is a substance that if someone is overdosing, if you give that to them, they will come back to life. So I think that could be helpful in terms of the number of deaths that come from drug use. Thank you again, Vicki, she left in CAC for cleanup day, picking up trash. I will suggest to those of you who drive in Amenia that it would be really great if we didn't have to spend a whole day picking up your trash. If you could like keep it in your car and throw it out at home, that would be lovely. If you need us to provide trash bins for your car, just call me and I'm sure the town would graciously do that. Let's see. Betsy Strauss, who's the head of the Amenia Historical Society, arranged for an iron plaque to be placed at the old Amenia burial grounds. There's a group that does that, and they have a program specifically for cemeteries with Revolutionary War veterans in them. And I went to that and helped unveil a plaque on Saturday. I went with Ian Tuesday to a closing on the transfer of the charcoal kilns to the town, which is, again, a really remarkable, unique property. So I guess, do we actually own it now? Are we done?
Yeah, no, you look.
We own it. Okay. The ARC 38 property was apparently purchased by the Hollyhock Foundation, and their mission is to preserve land for green recreational space. And they intend for the public to use it or to use their property on Rattlesnake Mountain for mountain biking and hiking, which should be a great thing. They haven't started on that, and I think they just had a preliminary conversation with the planning board. And we got a $15,000 donation from the previous owner of that land to the Housing Trust Fund. He had originally planned to donate the bottom 5 acres of the site to the town for workforce housing, but since he sold it instead, he sent us a check, which was a complete surprise. So on to the town clerk. She's recovered enough from her vacation to continue.
Should still be a vacation day.
Fine.
First, I'd like to begin by starting saying thank you to Erica, who held out the fort with his absence. But as you guys might have noticed, because you have phone calls and emails, so I think it was a nice vacation, but I'm here. During that time, the minutes of our 2 previous meetings were circulated, the April 17th and your special meeting on the 23rd. Have you guys had the opportunity to review? Yes. Is there a motion to accept? All in favor?
I have to
Any
abstain.
opposed?
Oh, that's third?
Any
Okay.
opposed? Any abstentions?
I have to abstain because I wasn't at one of those meetings.
Yeah. Motion carries, guys. The other thing I do have to present this evening, that I just received yesterday, is I'm in the receipt of a resignation from John Stephanopoulos from the planning board. I hadn't had the opportunity to circulate it, but I did have the opportunity to print it. So is there a motion to accept this resignation? With regret, yeah, of course.
Again, with regret.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? With that being said, I'd also like authorization to go ahead and advertise for that open position as we already made aware he was reappointed at the end of last year. So that is going to be a full term expiring on December 31st of 2031.
We just vote or we just make
Just go
it?
ahead and authorize me to advertise. That's all I'm asking for at this point. Thank you.
Oh, otherwise you would
Thanks, Leo. So it's not
advertise.
Cool. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Um,
And that, I don't have any other announcements.
Wow, that's the fastest ever. Thank you.
Still on cruise time.
Under discussion items, I guess we already discussed the graphic design presentation and the housing, affordable housing tax exemption we discussed.
Wait a minute.
What?
Back to the response to the graphic design, I think we should hold off on moving forward with that.
Okay. Okay, for a specific period of time?
Well,
Or-
until, at least until after June 9th, after the public
Sure.
comment session. we hear back from the Economic Development Committee and from the Comprehensive Plan Review Committee.
Great. Okay. We need to make a motion or can we just accept that?
Just let him
I'll make a
know.
motion.
Just let him know.
What? We don't need a motion. Okay,
Just let him know.
all right. I'm just breaking that down. Okay. Establishing a speed limit on Main Street and establishing 15-minute parking at the post office. So as I've said many times, the biggest complaint I get is about people not being able to find a parking space directly in front of the post office. I had suggested changing the 4 spots in front to 15-minute parking or 3 15-minute parking and 1 handicap space. The speed limit on Main Street is also something that people complain to me about on a regular basis. And apparently the town board can make a resolution to reduce the speed limit through the hamlet. I know it can go as low as 25, it might be lower than that. But if people are interested in that, I will put something more formal together. So just wanted to see if anyone had any thoughts on those 2 things.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great to do something, but who's gonna enforce it? You know, how's it gonna be enforced? I mean, I don't believe we have constables on Main Street, picking out tickets,
We do not, we can call this the Dutchess County Sheriffs.
but who's gonna be responsible?
For calling the Dutchess County Sheriffs? I'm gonna make that your job.
What do you, about which part, the parking?
Yeah, I mean, you're gonna tell somebody, right, there for 20 minutes, or, I don't know, I mean, it's great, I'm not against it, and that's not what this is about. What I'm saying is, I mean, to have something enforceable, if the sheriff is gonna be there watching, you know, that'd be great, but, you know, I think they certainly need to be part of the conversation.
Okay, I mean, it is enforceable, but we don't have enforcement, and it's expensive, we found out to have enforcement.
Yeah.
So if you have another idea, I would love
Well,
to.
that was the same thing with the rail trail, with the, what was in the number 4 in the narrative about the constables getting tickets, and we don't have them. You know.
Well, we do have them, but they have
And-
day jobs, so they're
And
not typically.
when they host, you know, parking, oftentimes, you know, comment on this, there's supposed to be something about enforcement, and if the car's towed, you know, you have to contract with a person who tows, and it has to be on the side, that kind of thing. So enforcement, I mean, again, it would be nice to put the signs there, because people who are mindful and respectful would probably do that, but everyone is.
Okay, well, I mean, feel free to like work on a solution, because that would be a great thing, but I don't really see one at this point.
Well, the solution that we talked about was too costly, so but I agree, we do have to enforce it. And I don't have any other answer other than what we tried to do with calling it, and that, we couldn't move forward with that, so. You know, and honestly, I think that if we could get somebody to do it for a while, you know, it's like, how many people speak to a number around one court? Not me, because I remember from the time I was a kid, you never knew when that police officer was gonna be parking on there, right? So, I mean, it's ingrained, so if we had somebody who even went through his spot check or whatever, you know, it wouldn't be long before I think people would get the message.
I think, getting the signs changed to 15-minute, we should do, because right now they're what, 30, or are they an hour? They're 1 hour. So get the signs changed. I think we can do a resolution for a certain period of time, have a constable be able to write tickets like we did in the wintertime, when they would be parked on the roads during like plowing season, like the winter plowing. There was a resolution done to have constables write tickets.
Oh, okay.
In the past.
But did that ever happen?
Well, why would they have done a resolution?
Well, one reason I'm saying is cars are parked there all year long during those hours.
I think it was done for a season. I don't know if that needed to be renewed every year. Do you recall, Dawn?
So the constables have the authority to issue tickets,
I believe that's
but,
case everything.
and that's how it's set forth. But I'm just gonna kind of burst it in there real quick. We can talk about enforcement, but you don't have a fee schedule that goes with this. I'm just gonna get right to the money part of it. for you to understand this process. So you can go and have enforcement, they can write a ticket for.
Oh, yeah, but what's our ticket fee? Gotcha, okay.
So, this is similar to some of our other local laws that are currently, being brought up to your attention that need to be reviewed.
And those tickets, you have to go to parking court, I mean, you have to go to the program. Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
there's nothing for them to,
Fee. There's no written fee.
what would you like to charge them?
Okay, well, there's a lot to think about on this.
Ian wants to
But
say
also,
something.
also, my understanding is that the board will draft a resolution requesting that signs be placed there. It's not, we just gotta put them. This is a request that will go to the state DOT, the state DOT to approve this. So I don't want to put the cart before the horse, because they may not do anything.
Right, but that, we can try to.
Right, but we have to do the
request
resolution
signs.
first.
We can request that they.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah, so that's step one.
without having to enforce any,
Correct, and
Okay.
then if they are so gracious to help us out, then at that point, I think that's when we should start getting into a little bit more of setting our fee schedules. Otherwise, we're spinning wheels up.
right.
And I spoke to the regional director at New York State DOT, who said that they actually don't typically get involved with any parking issues in terms of length of time and that sort of stuff. Of course, they want to see it before it's enacted, but they don't typically care about that in a town. So, for what that's worth.
I also know that, even though it's not the state, we should also go ahead and put signs on Mechanic Street, because cars are starting to park there again.
Wait, is that right?
On Mechanic Street,
Yeah.
I think we need to move ahead and have the no parking signs put there. And I know that's not DOT, however, we're thinking about signs.
Well, it's easier. It's
Is that another request?
Megan.
They want to add no parking to an additional road in our town. They want to extend the no parking to the current.
That would be included in this resolution.
That request, good. Okay.
Yeah, we can put that in. I mean, I'd rather than widen the street actually, so there's room for cars to pass each other.
We have a law that was established for no parking on part of that road, and it had a specific footage as to where there was no parking. They're looking to extend it on the rest of the road. Just confirming.
Yeah.
Can you find that?
Yeah, it would-
Yeah, it's in our code. It's like-
Oh, it's in the code. I thought you said it was a little.
Similar to EV, similar to the EV charging station, you have to create a law that puts the regulation on the book, which then allows you to enforce that. And within the law, you can either set the fines within there, or you can set them, you can either set the fines in the code, which I would not recommend. I would recommend that you, have the code, have the fines set by town code resolution, which allows you then to set the schedules for your fine schedules.
So in 2013, by our local law number 2, we had parking prohibited along certain areas of Mechanic Street. And it shows them along the east side of Mechanic Street, from the intersection of Mechanic Street and Route 343 to a point which is 107 feet south of the stop sign at the intersection of Mechanic and Route 343. So we're just
So
looking to
just the
extend.
east side.
Mhm. And then along the west side, it was the 40 feet. It was where the curve out was. Like that. So they're looking to extend that.
I would just need coordinates, and I can put that together. That will be a local law.
Okay.
Is 107 feet past the firehouse?
The 107 is the parking spot where it shows to that first utility pole where it has
Yep.
a sign. And then after that, there is no signage for the rest of the road.
I'm sorry, how far is 107 feet?
Just that spot when you're making the right-hand turn.
No, from there, doesn't go in the opposite direction. If it's 107 feet, you're measuring from that point, aren't you?
From that first utility pole to the intersection. Right in front of the restaurant.
Ah, okay.
That's it. It's the yellow part. And then across the street on the Dollar General side is just where the curve out where the trees were supposed to be.
Okay, so we will do a little more research on that. What else we got? The parking lot on the basketball court, I mean, I know there are people, very vociferous people on both sides of that issue. There are people that want to keep the basketball court in that space because it's been there a long time, or because they think that kids won't walk to, on our expensive new sidewalk, to Beekman Park. So I know there's that, and I also know that an enormous number of people complain to me about there not being enough parking on Main Street, which again, I haven't experienced in 23 years, but that doesn't stop people from complaining. So I wondered how the rest of you felt about that.
So maybe we should have a chairperson's, meeting again and have that be on the agenda.
That's a good idea.
And then maybe between all the chairs, they can, come up with a plan.
Yeah, and I also think, obviously, the recreation is a big thing in this, so.
Yes, I'm waiting. Okay. Community market, again, I just said that we're working with Katie, who's the new, not our former Katie, who's a different Katie at ECC. What?
Short dark hair.
Yeah, and she's very energetic and is convinced that she can pull this together. People from Silo offered to help as well, and we obviously there's advertising, a whole bunch of other things to do to make this happen, but hopefully it will. I'm not gonna, make any promises yet.
Can I touch on the food trucks?
Please.
Now then, just have it on here. So I had asked Ian at the last meeting, and he told me he couldn't have it ready for tonight, but,
Okay.
for the next meeting, because where we left off on that was we had kind of all agreed that we liked Red Hooks. So
Okay.
we're basically gonna write that up for us. Right?
Yes, I've already started back.
I figured you did.
Great. Okay, terrific. Yeah, because that kind of calls
Ties
out
into this,
to,
yes.
as does the start of the summer concert
Yes.
series. It would be really nice to
Mhm.
know how to handle all that. And the town electrician moved down, so,
Can we just touch very briefly on the charging station? Could you skip?
oh, okay.
I know Vicki might have cleared up some of it, but my question is, what happens after that 2 years? What's the cost to the town?
I mean, again,
The,
the CAC has been working on that for a really long time. And I don't really know how it began, what the terms were of the grant. I think the problem is that there was kind of no one managing grants for a long time. So I think that just got kind of lost along the way. I mean, there was no one who was following up to make sure that happened and that the terms of the grant were met. So I know Charlie's been following that recently and has offered to the administration on that, but it was just, kind of just dropped off.
So
The-
is he
the
one
radar.
that, did he look through what Ian sent us then on the stipulations on that we need to follow
that's what I was referring to, the constables, that was number 4.
on that?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Like, who's driving this project and is gonna look through that?
Right.
And on that note too, there are specific individuals who need to be designated within this. That's why I've circulated to the board.
In that-
because I-
is that
I-
contract?
I-
Is that contract?
So this is required under the grant, the operations maintenance and mitigation monitoring plan. This what I've drafted here is derived from a sample that's provided to us. So, I've taken that and what we're doing is, this will be incorporated into a current agreement that we have with the county. And, sorry. Who's doing the rail trail? Who monitors rail trail? Has about rail trail?
It's the county.
Yeah. So, so within that document, which is expiring at the end of this year, we're going to renew that document. So we're going to go to one stone. We're going to renew that document. We're going to add the EV station language into that document. Because most of the other aspects of that, as far as maintenance of that parking lot, who does what, when, where, and how, it's already within that document. So it's a very opportunistic time for us to do it. And so I've worked with Bob Balkan and the county, I've already sent this to them, they looked at it, they reviewed it, they've made their comments, and then that's what I've circulated.
But we still have to assign somebody on our end.
Yes,
Yeah.
these blanks that are in here, I need.
So
I
would
need
it make
something
sense
for.
to have it be a committee? That
Oh.
would like,
When it's different, I don't know if it should be a piece.
Yeah,
no,
it's
a
committee.
current, like one we already have.
Oh, one we already have.
Yeah, well, what do you need to assign somebody for?
Okay, so on number 7 of the document, it talks about customer support number will be posted on a sign adjacent to the EV charging stations. Additionally, a customer who is having problems with the EV charging stations can request a support number from the town of Amenia. So who's the designated person if there's a problem there, they call them, right? If there's an issue with the hardware or software, who's in charge of that? They're all outlined in the agreement I circulated. Also, with regards to the cable and plug inspections, we have to inspect that and go through that to make sure that it's properly working and not broken, and so who's in charge of that? Who's going to be doing these things? The board has to designate somebody to do this, so we can follow up and maintain the actual system that's going to exist. Number 4, which Brad's been alluding to a couple of times here, is we would have to do a local off-road parking ordinance, just because you gotta have a law in place, or else people are gonna park and need to go there. So if you don't have a law in place to enforce it,
Meaning like put limitations on how long,
correct.
right?
Well, what it says, it's the
Which
town.
I've actually drafted already on
Yeah.
this.
But what number 4 says is the town has a responsibility for constable certificate.
Yeah, we're responsible for a lot with this, but that's.
No,
Is the signage that's in the existing parking lot all from the town, or is that from the county? I thought that was the county was responsible. for
No, the
signage.
county, I believe, has done all your signing, all the signage. They have discussed doing the striping for this, any additional signage we would need, and they'll do whatever they'd be very.
But they, no, I'm just saying that they don't have a specific parking time on their current signage.
Right, but this
No,
is-
that's just like an open parking lot, but for this, it's a charging station. So generally, when one way you draft the laws, is you're allowed to park your car there, you can either limit it by time,
Yep.
or you can limit it to charging, actual charging, and once you're done charging, you gotta go.
Yeah.
So there's a couple different ways you can structure them.
But it's only free for 2 years, so what happens after that? How do we charge it? Do they get meters put in on?
No, there's third party, and Bob Balkan can explain this, he's actually offered to talk to the board about it, if the board wants to understand further, but my understanding of how that works is there's a third party, vendor that you go through that handles all of it. So we would ultimately, then, we would have to contract with,
And when the system breaks.
we're responsible. The town will be responsible thereafter. But the grant does cover it for a period of time. Again, I'm not administering the grant, I'm not part of the grant, I was brought in to handle the easement issue, which we've circumvented, but as a result of that, we need to get to this revised grant, this revised, contract as far as maintenance.
So we don't have an idea what the cost of that.
After, I have no idea.
But there also is, after 2 years, income from the charging, right?
You have to
Presumably,
get a contract and put it in place to bill people when they use it.
yeah.
Right, but I mean, that would.
Presumably,
that would be a
second
third
grade.
party.
I mean, I don't work in EV charging stations, but
I
presumably what would happen is your charging rate would then cover
It's
the
supposed to pay
additional.
the, that's the theory.
That's in theory,
If they're getting used enough to cover.
in theory. So, yes.
Okay, lots to find out there.
So maybe we should make up a list of questions, or people should make up a list of questions.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
And, specific questions, and then either send them to, CAC or whoever.
No, I feel like they need to look at this document.
We post it on the website, right?
Well, I mean, I can also call
I
CAC
think that's,
to
they
make
just,
sure that.
they, you just email them. Because I don't know who in the grant, like, there's no point person.
That's
in the
fine,
grant,
and I can't seem to get anybody to say,
Correct.
it's me,
But yes, and whether that is, should have this and look at this. and
Right,
Yes.
yeah.
Ultimately, the board will probably make final decisions on who and what they want in here.
Okay. Well, I think we've finally gotten to resolutions. Thank you. Okay, resolution number 53 of 2025, authorizing town board of the town of Amenia to accept a donation from Christopher Lindstrom for future affordable housing projects. Whereas pursuant to town law 64-8, the town board of the town of Amenia may take a gift, bequest, or devise and hold real and personal property absolutely or in trust for parks or gardens, or for the erection of statues, monuments, buildings, or structures for any public use upon such terms or conditions as may be prescribed by the grantor or donor and accepted by said town, and provide for the proper administration of the same. And whereas Christopher Lindstrom wishes to make a donation of $15,000 to the town of Amenia for affordable housing, and whereas the town would like to accept from Christopher Lindstrom the donation of $15,000 for affordable housing, now therefore be it resolved as follows. The recitation set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as fully set forth and adopted herein. To the town board of the town of Amenia and all residents of the town of Amenia hereby gratefully accepts the donation of $15,000 from Christopher Lindstrom for affordable housing. The $15,000 donation will be accepted and held in the Housing Trust Fund to be used only for future affordable housing projects, and that's because the Housing Trust Fund is set up also can use money for wastewater or water that supports affordable housing. I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
That's that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Like this part too? Okay. Resolution number 54 of 2025, awarding bid for the purchase and installation of a new digital LED sign for Amenia Town Hall. Whereas the town board of the town of Amenia, by resolution number 124 of 2024, authorized the preparation and solicitation of bids for the purchase and installation of a new digital LED sign for Amenia Town Hall. And whereas by resolution 43 of 2025, adopted by the town board on March 11th, 2025, the town board rejected all 12 bids previously received and authorized the preparation and solicitation of new bids. And whereas bids were duly advertised and solicited for the purchase and installation of new digital LED sign for Amenia Town Hall, and 6 bids were received, opened, and read aloud by the town clerk. A copy of the bid summaries annexed here too. And whereas the bids received from Cirrus and Signage Wayfinding Construction LLC were disqualified due to Cirrus failing to provide complete bid documents, and Signage Wayfinding Construction LLC submitting their bid late and being outside the allocated cost of the project. And whereas the following 4 bids were reviewed and considered by the town engineer. First, Link Marketing Inc., the bid amount was $31,200. The second was Complete Signs LLC, the bid amount was $38,081. The fourth was GNS Group Ltd. Limited for $39,522. And the fourth and last was Timely Signs of Kingston for $49,650. Whereas by recommendation letter dated April 29, 2025, John B. Andrews Jr., P.E., Town Engineer, recommended that the most responsive and lowest responsible bidder was GNS Group Limited, and recommends the town board award the contract to GNS Group Limited in the amount of $39,522. All is set forth in the aforementioned recommendation letter, a copy of which is annexed here to and made a part hereof. And whereas this action is considered a type 2 action for the purposes of the State Environmental Quality Review Act, pursuant to section 617.5C9, and therefore is not subject to review by SECRA. Whereas the town board, pursuant to its analysis under the New York State Court of Appeals decision in the matter of County of Monroe versus City of Rochester, 72 NY 2nd 338553, New York State 2D 708 1988, has determined that providing immunity from the zoning code would clearly serve the public interest of increasing government transparency and providing a greater level of communication to town residents during emergency situations and events. Now therefore be resolved as follows. The recitations set forth or above are incorporated in this resolution as fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the town of Amenia hereby awards the contract for the purchase and installation of a digital LED sign for Amenia Town Hall to GNS Group Limited in the amount of $39,522. 3, in accordance with the authorized bid specifications, the town board hereby authorizes the supervisor to execute the contract documents as prepared by the engineer to the town and forward a copy to GNS Group Ltd. After the attorney to the town has reviewed same and GNS Group Limited has supplied the insurance certificates as required by the bid specifications. 4, funding for this project shall be paid from the engineering C budget line, number 1.014404.01.000.00. I'll make that motion.
Second, I have a question. It's just in the narrative of the way it's true, so the first round of bids, I don't believe the town board ever saw. Is that right?
They were withdrawn because there was a problem in terms of whether they were open or the
Yeah.
sort of the method and the end.
The process was, there was irregularity in the process which caused them to be rejected and remanded.
The other thing I just want to state in the road determination is important because it sort of exempts the town hall for doing something for public good, if I'm not mistaken. That's how we're doing it, legally.
It's a balance, the Monroe analysis is a balancing test analysis, balancing the public interest versus liability and occurring essentially.
Thank you. And the details of that are attached in terms of the requests we have for people in the town to have more immediate information, the fact that it's going to be used in an emergency until we have some other system to use, and that will make people aware of town meetings and events, and presumably also for recreation and the fire department. So,
Second?
Made a second. All in favor?
Yeah,
I
Any opposed?
All right, last resolution, number 55 of 2025, hiring town electrician. Whereas the town of Amenia is in need of a town electrician to handle minor electrical jobs for the town from time to time, and whereas the town board obtained 3 rate quotes from electricians as follows. 1 Berlinhoff Electric, Pine Plains, $140 an hour. 2 McDermott Electric, Queendale, $120 an hour. And 3 JLS Electric, Dover Plains, at $175 an hour. And whereas the town board has determined that McDermott Electric has the lowest responsible rate, and therefore be it resolved as follows. 1, the recitations set forth above are incorporated in this resolution as fully set forth and adopted herein. 2, the town board of the town of Amenia hereby hires McDermott Electric at the hourly rate of $120 to handle minor electrical jobs for the town. I'll make that motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Okay. Let's see. Are we done with resolutions? I think we are. Anyone have other matters?
I just want to clarify what's going to be on the next meeting. We're going to have the food trucks resolution to be ready. Ian?
Yeah, I'll have a draft of local law, which I can have a resolution introducing and setting a public hearing for.
And we'll have Donna over here.
Yes, we can certainly invite them.
And can we somehow get input from the fire department who would benefit from that solution?
Yeah, I mean, can you put me in touch with someone to ask
Our
if we
company
should
presidents?
fire department?
Yeah, they should come, absolutely. And Michael said everything?
Okay. Great. Anything else? Any town board comments?
just building off of what you did with county for the Dropbox and also the Narcan. I think, I know I mentioned it to you before, I thought you said you were gonna check on it, but being that, again, I'm going back a couple years with the Gibson Journal's editorial or story about Dutchess County having the highest fentanyl deaths in the state. That I had mentioned to you that in the talking, we asked about getting free fentanyl strips as well.
I think we met with you. Yes, actually, I have a meeting tomorrow with them.
Oh,
Or I'm
perfect,
sorry,
all right.
but we have a meeting with them tomorrow afternoon to find out what other opportunities are. There is a vending machine that is a possibility to be able to dispense that. We just wanted to review with them the potential sites and walk the town hall to ensure that this is a appropriate location for that to happen here in Amenia. And if not, we can talk to them with any other options or locations in this community or neighboring communities that it could be
I
available.
mean, my concern is just determining what the volume of likely users would be, because the idea of having a vending machine, if we have, three people use it every 6 months or something, it seems like a waste of a vending machine. So,
And I think it's a great opportunity that we can have a discussion in person rather than
well said.
tomorrow.
Thank you. That's great news.
Yeah, that's what our meeting is about tomorrow.
I just wanted to say that, meeting on off of what you consider really true about having the committees all meet again, I think it is a good idea. I know it seems daunting thinking about another meeting every month. So, my other idea was, what if the committees that do have projects that kind of overlap, what if the chairs just go to each other's meetings that are already existing? So, maybe whoever is the chair for the economic development goes to the rec meeting and vice versa, those chairs, to eliminate having another meeting. I think we do, but I'm thinking like bi-monthly for all
I mean, that would be,
chairs.
I think bi-monthly makes sense. I mean, I think the problem with having the chairs, expecting the chairs to go to the other committees that are doing relevant work is that it's probably 4 or 5 committees that they would have to add to their rotation. So it may make more sense to just have it every 2 months and as a separate meeting for, I mean, I think asking them to go to, and that's asking them to go to a lot of meetings. I just don't know if the people would actually do
No, I'm
it.
saying like, for instance, the parking thing,
Right.
Right, Ken can go to the rec meeting, that's one extra meeting a month, and vice versa, right, the chair, and that's to throw you out there.
Not everyone, it's just for a particular topic.
Right, it's as needed, like when, they should, we're emailing each other, we have emails.
We do. I'm just thinking that it would be good for them to talk to each other monthly or bi-monthly anyway, because I think that otherwise they have no idea what they're each doing, what their committees are each are doing. And I think it's really important that they know that and can coordinate. I mean, people at meetings seem very excited because
Like,
it was
wow,
their first opportunity
I
to
think
do
it was an
that.
aha moment, like,
Right.
yeah.
Yeah, no one asked us before.
Yeah.
So,
I kind of wish Ken was still here, because I did want to say, and I had emailed this actually, when this whole creating with a graphic designer for a seal came up, and we had spoken at that meeting. And I went home and I thought, and I looked at all of the other towns and their seals, and I think I sent this email to all of you, and I said, the town seal is a reminder of where or what we come from, not where we're going. Because Ken talks a lot about branding. And what I see in all these town seals with other towns is it's not about what we think we want to be or where we want to go. It's remembering who we are and where we come from. So if you want to delay it, that's fine, but I just think sticking to our roots in a sense is what I think the outcome should be in the seal. That's all.
It's a quick challenge to the board members. You guys are each liaisons, so when you go back to your committee meetings, part of it, and part of your rules, you're supposed to be sending out the agenda, they're supposed to be sending out the minutes. The communication among the 4 of you, maybe you guys could share if you hear, like Leo doesn't get to go to those meetings as much anymore, being that he's the supervisor, but he has the 3 of you to help him, that maybe you could ensure that those minutes are being shared to all board members and timely. I mean, there are some committees that still do not have their minutes up to date.
This is gonna sound painfully obvious, but that's what we've been doing to a certain degree, and I think the reaction from everybody was at that one meeting where the chairs were there, was a very good one, in which we all discussed, and I think establishing a monthly chair meeting was pretty much, and at those meetings, I think that discussed the important topic at the time. A monthly chair
There
meeting.
are all different topics they want to discuss, but I think it's all good for
What
them to all
what
be
I
heard.
heard tonight was you assigning them a project, where there are some committees that may be following your own agenda without the assignment and the guidance specific from you guys. So maybe if they had that guidance more specific, they would know, I mean, why are they working on the same project you're working on?
So there are some committees that are overreaching though. I mean, so the comprehensive plan review committee really touches on a whole bunch of topics, you know? So I think that is true, but I also think, so for example, something came up tonight, I'm trying to remember what it was, or maybe it was parking. It doesn't just impact rec, it doesn't just impact economic development, it doesn't just impact the comprehensive plan review committee, it impacts, and actually, in reality, even the planning board, because I'm assuming that there has to be some kind of review or something from the planning board, maybe even the zoning board of appeals. I mean, if you're talking about, you know, changing use, so I'm kind of, so to assign something to a committee, so many of the things really involve more than one committee, so I really kind of hesitate to do that. So that
And the committees are not just the chairs. Committees all have voices.
Right, but the chairs should theoretically report back to the committees. I mean, we can't do everything.
No, correct, and that's why, I mean, I only ask for minutes, so if the chairs aren't ensuring that the minutes are getting done.
Then we can yell at them when they get together or something. Okay, I'll do that.
There's the train.
Okay, I think that brings us to public comment on all business, if there's any further public comment. Oh, Walter, you put your hand up.
I know it's late, so really quick.
Sorry.
Walter Dietrich, 4887 Route 22. Being a person that has to go to the post office to get their mail, there is a problem with parking. However, that being said, the problem with parking is basically around the post office, from the light and to the library, basically. There's plenty of parking down, but the people that go to the library that I see are not going to go down and park at the basketball field and walk up to the post office. A lot of them probably can't, because there's a lot of elderly people that live in my area. So that's just something to think about when you're talking about it, that's all. So thank you very much. Good night, have a good evening, it's very late.
Anyone else? Oh, Judy.
He makes a good point, because I actually went to the flower shop today, and I parked down past the opening sign for the library to walk up there, because that was the first available spot. So makes you wonder about having a parking lot lower. It's not going to help with the post office. The post office needs to move.
Well, I mean, the problem with the post office moving is the same thing as the grocery store moving, where the whole balance of, I mean, the retail flees. The reason that moving the post office is problematic is because that's the one thing that brings people downtown now. And, you know, what we learned from shopping malls in the 70s is that if the retail moves out of the center of town dies. So we have to be really careful about what we wish for. Judy, go ahead.
Yeah, what he said is right. I have pictures I've been taking on a daily or semi-daily basis showing cars lined up in front of the post office and the other side of the street and pretty much empty as far as the eye can see. So turning something into a parking lot down there when there's already open spots out the street does not seem like a terribly useful solution to that problem. But I'm not going to get into that tonight because there's too much to go on. The EV stations, having read through, and And this is my problem. I couldn't find anything. Because I've been hearing about the EV stations for the last 6 months of board meetings, a little bit longer. I tried to see if there was anything on the town website. There was nothing. I did a search on Google for Town of Amenia EV grant, and I found it. And I found the paperwork, which Ian is talking about now, that needs to be filled out. And I thought to myself, first of all, yeah, good for these guys for putting in the time. There's no two ways about it. I don't want to take anything away from them for the work they put into it. But that's not the end of it. And we have no idea what the cost is going to be to continue that. It's lovely to provide charging for people with electric vehicles. This is taxpayer money going toward this. And I think that having it next to the rail trail, where it's unlikely that someone would get out for a 2-hour walk or leave their car there at night and then walk down to the one restaurant that's available there, and I hope it's there for a long time, but it's, I'm not sure that there aren't other solutions like 4 spots at Four Brothers around. I also am not sure that the pricing that they got would stay. My assumption of what would happen once the...
Sorry, the pricing of what?
Well, the pricing of the construction and/or the maintenance contract, which they would sign, yeah, for the EVs. My assumption is that whoever came in and ran it would set the rates and we would get a percentage. And yes, again, it would have to cover administrative costs, but it's not just administrative costs. I mean, I know Vicki said, well, let's have them call the town clerk's office if it's not working. I'm not sure Dawn is going to be thrilled with that.
I would think not.
Added to her. So that's all I'm trying to get at, is that there's a lot more, and one would not expect Ian to be familiar with what it's going to cost. So I just like the board to get an idea before we sign anything on the dotted line, what we're signing up for, that's all.
Makes sense.
And the web designer, we're waiting, so that's okay. I absolutely agree with you on where we came from. We don't know where we're going. We may know where we would like to go, but where we came from is, in my opinion, far more important than what we may be aspiring to, whether we get there or not.
And what you might want me to be, and what I might want to be,
Right.
what my kids might want me to be, that's ever changing.
Right.
Oh, no, I think Ken.
But the landscape stays the same.
That's
The
it.
mountains are still going to be there.
Agreed. And I'll suggest to graphic designer they consider space aliens. Oh my God, another conversation.
Sandro La Rosa, 15 Spruski. So, for the EV, I noticed that the Four Brothers, there are already stations. Is it possible to get information on the operation of those and the cost, the usage? I think it's a very good point, because, we don't know how many people are going actually to use it, and still you have a fixed cost to deal with in the future. So I think, the more we can get. Another, sometimes I go to the Stop and Shop in Canyon, which is kind of far away, but I used to go there because my daughter is in Lakeview, so when I was in Lakeview. And there are a lot of Tesla stations empty. Anytime I go there, they are empty. So I think your concern are well taken, should be looked at. And then I wanted to thank you for, taking care of the parking space at the post office, because it's a real problem, especially in winter time. And I heard you were considering also possibly to put a space for handicap. I suggested not to do that, because if you have a space for handicap, it will take space for the you know, the concept is that you have to leave, leave the time.
Limited times.
If you put a,
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, if you put limited time on a handicap spot,
well, you know, limited time, you know, once you put, the concept is to have a limited time. If you put,
right,
if you put a handicap space,
yeah,
the people who are not handicapped cannot use it.
right,
So-
and there's already limited spots there.
So just,
Okay, thank you.
just,
Okay.
thank you very much.
Okay, well, I suggest then, I make a motion that we move into executive session for a few very minor things.
Really?
I'll second it.
What?
What are those minor things?
For legal reasons, we didn't talk about personnel. I think all of this is personnel.